talk about third declension nouns today. It's the only thing you're going to learn this week, and so make sure you have your chart book out. You'll need it a little bit later. Now, most Latin nouns are third declension nouns. The easiest way to know what declension a noun belongs to is, of course, which I've told you before, is look at the genitive singular. So if you were to look at first declension, the genitive singular ends in AE. Second declension nouns, both masculine and neuter, end in an I. Third declension nouns, as you can see from the chart before, masculine, feminine, and then later we'll find out neuter, the genitive ends in IS. Easiest way to tell. So how would you find the stem of a third declension noun? The exact same way you do with any other declensions. You go to the genitive singular and remove the ending. And of course, in this case, it's an IS. So most first declension nouns are feminine. Most second declension nouns are masculine or neuter. First and second declension nominative nouns have 3 different endings, which makes it pretty easy to decide what gender the noun is. Third declension masculine and feminine nouns have the same endings. You see that this chart here includes both masculine and feminine. So you're going to want to pull out your chart book. If you turn to page 2, we're going to fill in the charts on the top of the page. Ignore the ones at the bottom that say I stems on them. We want third declension masculine and feminine and third declension neuter. Okay, so because they have this masculine and feminine and have the same endings, you're going to have to memorize what gender the noun is. If you forget, there's the dictionary at the back of the book, and there's also the glossary. Any of those resources will tell you what the gender is. So go ahead and open up your chart book. I want you to fill this out as we go along. There's a couple things I want to point out to you. The first one is that there is nothing totally blank in the nominative singular. That's because there is not a standard nominative ending. Many of the words will have a different nominative ending, so that's why it's left blank, because it's just going to be whatever the first entry in the glossary is. So the second thing I want to tell you, remind you about the dative. The I with a macron over it is pronounced long E, so E. The new sound that you've got right here is the ES. E with a macron says A, so literally this sounds like ace. If you want to put that in your chart book, that will help you. So everything else, including the translations, the words that we go in front of the nouns, the and the of the and the to and for the, they all remain the same. They never change depending on declension. They always remain the same. Okay. So what I want you to do is get that filled out, and then we are going to decline a third declension word. So how do you find? We're going to look at mater, matris, which means mother. You can kind of almost see it there. How do we find the stem? Remember, you go to the genitive singular and take off the IS. But as usual, the nominative singular is first listed and genitive singular is listed second, so mater just goes right in the nominative. There's no forming or declining that you have to do to it. It comes, however it's listed is how it is. You can also just take the genitive right down there and just put the entire genitive in. And so for the rest of it, you're going to take the stem and put it in here. And so be very careful, because you can't take off the end here, because M-A-T-E looks very different than M-A-T-R. And you will find yourself having words that are weird to pronounce. So exactly the same. I'm not going to translate it here. You should already know how to do that. And once you get the stem down, which is easiest first step, you're just going to add, you're going to look at your chart, and you're going to memorize your chart, and you're going to look at the endings. So E, M, E, ace, remember, ibus, and like in first and second declension, dative singular and dative plural are both ibus. Well, they both match. Here they're both ibus. The other place, you remember, they're is. So they look a little similar, but not. So pretty easy. You just have to remember to go to the genitive singular to find the stem. All right, let's talk about third declension neuter nouns. So you'll notice that the endings are almost the same as masculine, feminine, but still follows the neuter rule. This is why there's 2 blanks. The neuter rule, no matter what's declension, says that the nominative and accusative endings are always the same. And since we don't know, there's not a standard nominative ending, there's not a standard accusative ending. So whatever you put in for nominative, you put in for accusative. That is the same. Look at this. Nominative, accusative endings are the same in plural as well. But here's a new part of the neuter rule. No matter what declension you're in, nominative and accusative plural endings always end with A. So you probably never noticed that before because I've never needed to tell you, but they also end in A. So they look a little bit like first declension feminine with the A. They look a little bit like second declension neuter with masculine with the other things. This is another chart that you're going to have to memorize. So anything that's different, let's highlight anything that's different. So the only thing that's different, so we have is, of course, the accusative nominative. These are the only two things that are different from the masculine and feminine chart that you did. So if you know one and you know that nominative, accusative, plural ends in A, that should be pretty easy for you. All right, all we're going to do is we're going to decline corporis, which means body. And if you look, don't be fooled by the fact that nominative singular ends in US. You have to, it doesn't mean it's second declension. And I always get declined nouns back looking like that they are in the wrong declension. Don't look at that. You've got to look at the IS here. So then that is what you take off. So pretty easy to do. We just do corpus. Now remember, we're going to transfer that down to the accusative as well because it's the same. And then we're going to put corpor, significantly different. And so same thing here, corpor, all the way down. Pretty easy. Remember, if you just do your stem first and fill in the endings. And the only thing that's different is the A's on the end of all the rest. There's ibus for all of them, which makes it easier. Ibus, it's just got a BU in the middle of it. E is in the end of the ablative. I is dative. And genitive we already know because it's already written for us. That's it. That's all there is to learn.